How good has the NBA playoffs been? Has the WNBA finally modernized their play? What do we have to look forward to in the finals? The only question left is, say it with me, you win. Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown Podcast. Today, I am pleased to bring on friend of the breakdown, Ryan Ruocco, who is on ESPN, the Yes Network, and the voice of the WNBA playoffs. And man, what a playoffs it's been. Ryan, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, man. It certainly has been an absolutely incredible WNBA playoffs. It's been a blast, and you know, I always love following B-Ball Breakdown, so I'm always jacked up when I get to speak to you, man.
All right, well, we got a lot to talk about because the WNBA, was just epic 2 5-game series in the last round, and we had an amazing series with Seattle and Phoenix. So I was just thought you can give us paint a picture a little bit about, just give us a feeling about how much talent was on the court at the one time in this series.
Man, it was unbelievable, dude. Like, I mean, just incredible, the amount of talent on the floor. And I'm looking at it thinking, like, because I always say, you know, if you are a basketball fan and you give this league a chance, you will realize how good the basketball is. Like, you can't just look at the people who have game and the way they respect the game of these women. And I'll even use myself as an example. Like, when I was first offered the opportunity to do the WNBA 6 years ago or 6.5 years ago, I was like, man, I don't really know if I want to, what's the basketball like? The second I got into it, I was like, oh, wait, this basketball is great. And I felt that way more and more and more as it's grown. And it's like just completely organic being an advocate for the league because it's how deeply I believe in the product. And that series was a great example of it because you think about it, you have Diana Taurasi, who, yeah, you know, I say unequivocally the greatest player in the history of the WNBA, and I say that with the blessing of Rebecca Lobo, so I'm using trusted sources. You have Sue Bird, who is probably the greatest point guard in the history of the WNBA. Lindsay Whalen would be the other name you could throw in there with her. You have DeWanna Bonner, who is putting up maybe one of the most productive postseasons in the history of the league. Brittany Griner, we all know what a ridiculous talent she is. Breanna Stewart, who's the single most decorated women's college basketball player of all time. You know, and then you have other great young talents like a Jewel Lloyd or an accomplished player like Breon January, who's just a ridiculous defender. Natasha Howard, who's become such a good player for Seattle. Dude, it was just like the floor was just loaded with talent at all times, I feel like, and really top end talent.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Diana Taurasi for a second because I don't even know she gets enough. Like, I got to somehow figure out a way to get on the court with her or film something because I think more people need to understand just how good she is, even without even scoring necessarily. It just controls the entire game. And the fact that she's tough. You know, she gets in your face. I really, really love that mentality she has, and I just feel like she just needs a lot more, eyeballs on her.
She is incredible, man. She's just a baller, you know. You know those people, bro, who are just like, they just get it done, right? It's just like they just know how. She's one of those players where it's just like, yo, she just is a baller, and when she wants it, she gets it. Like, even you think about it, now, she didn't have the best end to the series, and she definitely was guarded well by Alicia Clark, and had a kind of a quiet finish the second half of the fourth quarter. But even then, when you think about like the three she did hit right before Sue went on her barrage, where Breanna Stewart hits this three to make it a 4-point game, and Diana comes to make it a 1-point game. With Seattle trailing, Diana comes down and is like, oh yeah, and just like boom, sticks a right wing three with two defenders in her face, like calmly off the dribble as she walks it up. And it honestly, it's like Curry, right? Like watching her is like watching Steph in that, like, I'm going to fire it from anywhere on the floor at any moment and just feel like I can, and I'm a killer. but she has sort of the attitude and mentality of like a Jordan, where she's gonna, she is just gonna, she wants to kill you out on that floor. That's what she wants to do. She loves the big shot. She loves the big moment. The end of that game too, where you saw her just, taking these ridiculous shots, man. The way she moves on the floor, the shots she can get off, she's just, she is a special assassin on the floor.
Yeah, and I like what the Sue Bird storyline in this series as well was pretty intriguing because, I think most people would probably acknowledge that Seattle probably takes Game 4 if she doesn't get knocked out by her teammate, right, in the nose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like it seemed
exactly.
like that's obviously the point where it fell apart for them because she's such a, listen, you take a starter off of any team, they're going to suffer, the rotations all get screwy, whatever, but it definitely felt like that happened. And then, so she comes back, and so my favorite part about this, which I don't even think I really realized until just today going through it again, was there's a scramble for a loose ball. They don't call foul in favor of Sue Bird, and she's really upset, right? She feels like she got hit in the face mask. She's now wearing a face mask because of the thing from Game 4. This is Game 5. And that is when she starts to go off after that moment and hits, was it 4 straight jumpers?
So before that, she had hit a couple, and then she hit, I think she hit then 3 straight after that.
Right.
So she had started to get going, then that happens, and it was like high octane after that. After that was when she took those 2 ridiculously deep ones where it was just like, oh, okay, all right, I'm gonna make sure we're not going home tonight, period.
Oh, yeah. And you got to love it because isn't that always how that seems to happen, where something like that happens, she's really fiery, and the next thing you know, bam, she's open for the shot and just nailed it. Deep. By the way, off the hop, I want to make sure people recognize that. She's a really great hop shooter with perfect rhythm. Another person I want to get on the court with and go over that, because is there anybody better than her from behind the line?
I don't think so. And, she was 3rd in the league in 3-point percentage this year. And what's so interesting about you mentioning her form, Nick, is that if you listen to her post-game interview, she actually credits Breanna Stewart because at one point Sue missed 5 straight threes in this game. Mm-hmm. And Breanna Stewart told her, and she missed 8 straight shots overall. And Stewart told her, hey, use your legs. And Sue was like, oh, because she kept falling short on them, Mm-hmm. And you're wondering a little bit, she's wearing a mask. Is there a vision issue? This is such a good shooter. Why is she missing? So it was use your legs. And she started using her legs again with that hop and obviously started getting the results right after. But, the thing that Rebecca Lobo, who's such an outstanding analyst, pointed out that I think is such a great point for what was going on there is Sue was doing all of that with Breanna Stewart on her. And Breanna Stewart is Sue was doing all that with Breon January on her. Mm-hmm. And Breon January is a fantastic defender. 6 times on the all-defensive team, pesky, fights over screens, will take on your switch, will muscle up someone bigger, is a black belt, and is really hard to move, and could be really difficult for, somebody of Sue's age as well. And Sue just scored all those points with January, who was the one defending her. You could just tell it was like, no, I'm not letting us go home tonight. And I know Sue felt like in Game 4, they had them. And they were in position to win that series. And there was like a definite oh, man, did we miss our chance type feeling once she broke her nose. So I think she was going to make damn certain that they didn't miss their chance in Game 5.
That's right. And you never want to miss your chance when it's in your grasp. And I'm giving you a chance at the best shave you'll ever get with Harry's razors. Let me put it this way. When your wife and daughter constantly steal your Harry's razors for their legs, you know it's a great shave. And I've tried a lot of different razors. The balance of the handle, the sharp, durable steel made from a 95-year-old precision blade factory in Germany, and the rich shave gel make for a truly great shaving experience. And by selling it online, Harry's can offer their blades at a much lower cost than the leading brand. Best of all, you can get their trial set by simply heading over to harrys.com/coachnick, a $13 value that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. weighted ergonomic handle, 5-blade razor with lubricating strip and trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. So redeem your trial set now by visiting harrys.com/Coach Nick and tell Harry that I sent you. Now, here's the thing you mentioned when you first started and you weren't really sure what the play was going to be like in WNBA, and I recognize that a lot of people say that, and then when they start to watch, they realize, oh, this is serious basketball. But I want to say that, I've gone to a few games throughout those last 5 or 6 years. The one thing that really kind of drove me crazy was that the way it was coached. The three-point line hadn't been embraced. It seems like in the last, at least this year for sure, we're now seeing 20, 25 three-point attempts per game and really opening it up instead of doing the typical like pound it inside, get the mid-range shot. And so I feel like the WNBA was a little bit behind for a while. But without question, if you're going to look at the teams that made the semifinals and now the finals, I don't think that it's a coincidence that these are the two of the top three-point shooting teams in the league that made the finals.
That is an excellent point, man, and you are 100% right. I definitely 100% agree with you, and I felt the same exact thing. I was like, why haven't they started shooting more threes? And I can remember even having that conversation with Cheryl Reeve a couple years ago because she is an outstanding coach, and I believe could coach on any level, anywhere. And I was talking to her about that. I'm like, it's weird. You guys don't shoot a lot of threes in this league. And she was like, you're right. She was like, for my group, I think it's more our personnel and who we have at this moment, because also at the time they had Brunson at the 4, and you know what they ended up doing? Teaching Brunson how to shoot threes, but that all happened just in these last 2 years, to your point. And the first guy who really made an emphasis of like, hey, I want to make sure we're getting all these attempts from 3 is Mike Thibault when he took over Washington. And he was like, we need to start adjusting or copying the pro game. And he talked about it. He's like, we're usually like a couple years behind in this league trend-wise with that stuff, and it's time to hop on that train. And so they did.
Yeah.
And obviously it's worked out for Washington. And Seattle with Jenny Busek, who was the former head coach who really designed the offense that they still use, she started to hop on that too. And thus we have the situation that we have now where you're right. It's no coincidence that these are the teams that are going to play in the finals, teams that have embraced the three-point line the way that the NBA has over the last 7 years or so. Now the W has started to the last 2 or 3 years.
For sure. And what's interesting is that, I went to a Sparks game earlier this year. They played Atlanta. And it was frustrating because, again, like the Sparks lost the game. And, to me, the women, they don't elevate to the rim level, right? I mean, I'm not saying anything controversial here.
No, it's a below the rim game.
Yeah, and as a result, when a defender comes over, puts their hand straight up, and they're like, not going to foul, but they're going to be put straight up, that's a pretty tough deterrent for anybody shooting closer to the basket or even trying to post up. And I'm sitting there saying, gosh, why aren't they working outside in? And even that, they weren't doing it as much. And as a result, the Sparks they were middle of the pack to the bottom as far as three-point attempts per game. And it was like, just open the floor up, stop shooting the, pounded inside, which, by the way, there are some male coaches out there from a certain era, older than you and I, who, that's what they say, pound it inside, work it inside, then out. And it was like, it seemed clear to me for a long time. Yeah, open this thing up. Let them get more pick and roll. Let them, collapse the defense and kick out for threes. It's the reason why, Phoenix was down in Game 4, right? It feels like the reason why they came back was they finally just spread it and started nailing some threes.
100%, absolutely. They, that, and I do think it's now much more of an answer for these teams, to spread it out and start taking, more three-point attempts. Like in the past, just like the NBA, there's way more pick and roll now. There's way more emphasis on having at least 4 shooters on the floor at all times, and there's way more threes being taken and being made. If you just look at, the league leaders over the last couple of years, you see the percentages significantly going up. This year there were 3 or 4 players who shot it at 45% or better from 3. I can remember a few years ago where it was like, if you shot 38% from three, you were going to be in that top five, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's not only, not only has the amount increased, but the efficiency has increased as well.
Absolutely. Well, let's preview the finals a little bit here because I want to know what we have in store for us. I mean, again, there's a lot of talent out there on the floor in the finals. Who is the best player on the floor when these guys meet?
I think if Elena Delle Donne is totally healthy, I think we'd still have to say she is. But I think that is only because Breanna Stewart is just doing this for the first time, right? Like, yes, Sue Bird was the hero of Game 5 with her absolutely epic final 6 minutes of that game. But Breanna Stewart was tremendous playing in that game. Her first conference semifinals or playoff semifinals, and she put up 28 in that Game 5. And I remember talking to her before the game and her just talking about how confident she was and feeling like she's built for these moments. Even though she's a very sweet, young woman, she's obviously got that killer instinct in her. That's why all she's done is win, throughout her career. So I would say I'll defer to Delle Donne if she's healthy based on who she's been in this league. But understanding that Breanna Stewart is probably going to be that player for a long time to come. And the only reason we may not be saying it yet is just because it hasn't happened yet. And we may be saying it as soon as the series is over. For
sure. And Breanna Stewart, I mean, in case people are familiar with her game, is just tremendous from all over the floor. And, her post game, both hands, is so impressive to me. It's just basically an unstoppable force down there. I think, is that overstating it or?
No, it's not. It's not overstating it at all. You're 100% right. When you watch her, both hands, can shoot a three off the dribble, can catch and shoot a three. She can operate, stagnantly in the post. She can operate off movement in the post. She can handle. There really isn't anything she can't do. And I think it just took her a little bit, a year or two. I mean, she was still being a productive player, but it took her a year or two just to fully understand the physicality of the professional game and kind of get strong enough for it. And now she has. And she is a beast to deal with. And so it's funny when players go through it for the first time, right? You never kind of look at them yet as like the player you're going to pick to certainly come through in that moment because you have to see them do it. But once she does it, this time of year, it's going to be a lot of, that team has Breanna Stewart, so they're probably a good choice. She's going to end up being the kind of player who is talked about in those greatest of all time conversations. She just has a long way to go because she's early in her career.
For sure. And it certainly has the pedigree from where she came from in college of Connecticut and then beyond. So, I'm looking forward to this. We have a game starts tomorrow, Friday night. It's in Seattle. Seattle has the home court advantage. So is that who you're going to pick if you had to pick somebody?
You know what? I won't pick just because I'm calling the series, man. But I would say this, the atmosphere in Seattle has been sensational. Absolutely incredible. So for all those NBA fans who are pining for a team there, this is more evidence why there needs to be one there. Because, it really is just a sensational atmosphere. And anybody who wants to feel the vibe of these playoffs and understand the energy behind them will get that by tuning into to game one of these finals in Seattle.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, and promise me that you'll come back, at the end of the month or early in October, and we can, we'll talk more basketball. We'll talk about that other league too. That's that second-rate league that also plays basketball.
100%. I will look forward to doing that, my man.
All right,
I always
great.
am a fan of your work and what you guys do at B-Ball Breakdown.
Hey, I really appreciate it, and thanks again for coming on and walking with me on your phone. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Ryan?
Yes, always.